Tonight on NewsWatch, chaos in a Cairo court. CBN News is in Egypt as the trial of Muslim Brotherhood leaders begins.
Plus, how the governor's race in Virginia could have an impact on the rest of the nation and the Republican Party. And a look at the growing problem of porn addiction among women. All this and more tonight on NewsWatch. Good evening. I'm Mark Martin. And I'm Wendy Griffith. Well, chaos in an Egyptian courtroom today as the trial of the country's first democratically elected president got underway.
Security in the capital city of Cairo has also been tightened as former President Mohamed Morsi faces charges of inciting violence. George Thomas has the details from Egypt.
You know, it truly is hard to imagine that more than 2.5 years ago on this very spot, the famous Tahrir Square in downtown Cairo became the focal point, the epicenter for tens of thousands of Egyptians who were chanting, calling for freedom, calling for the removal of then President Hosni Mubarak. Well, this week, another dramatic turn of events in the history of this nation, the trial of Mohamed Morsi and 14 top lieutenants in the Muslim Brotherhood. Egyptians saw Morsi for the first time since his removal 4 months ago. He struck a defiant tone the moment he entered the courtroom. "I am the legitimate president of the republic," he told the judge in a loud voice. "I am here against my will." He even refused to wear a prison uniform, instead wore a dark suit.
He is the head of this court. He refuses to wear the defendant's clothes because he is not a defendant.
Morsi and 14 other Muslim Brotherhood members are charged with inciting murder and could face the death penalty if convicted. The trial fueled anger and protests across the capital city.
This is a show trial. We are telling the judges of Egypt not to take part in this trial.
Morsi was Egypt's first democratically elected Islamist president. But after just 1 year in office, Egyptians had had enough of him. On July 3rd, the country's powerful army removed him from office. Many Egyptians CBN News spoke to defend the moves against Morsi.
The Muslim Brotherhood failed to come up with any good political or economic solutions and instead focused on trying to turn the society more conservative, more Islamic, and people didn't want this.
Since the military takeover, authorities have thrown thousands of Brotherhood members in jail. Hundreds of pro-Morsi supporters have been killed. Now there's growing concern among some that Egypt is turning into a military dictatorship.
The political direction of our country is turning more military. As long as the army is ruling Egypt, the current president does not represent us.
Meanwhile, some 20,000 security forces are on the streets to prevent any potential unrest. Following today's courtroom chaos, the judge adjourned twice and in the end postponed the trial to January. George Thomas, CBN News.
In Iran, tens of thousands of people packed the streets of Tehran in the biggest anti-American protest in years. The demonstrations happen every year to mark the anniversary of the 1979 embassy takeover. 52 Americans were held hostage for more than a year. At this year's protest, crowds of Iranians shouted "Death to America" and "Death to Israel" as they burned American and Israeli flags. Many of those protesters are opponents of Iran's nuclear talks with the U.S. They say they will continue to speak out against President Rouhani's outreach to Washington. This September was the first time direct talks between the U.S. and Iran were held since 1979.
An American pastor imprisoned in Iran is said to be facing life-threatening conditions after a recent prison transfer. The American Center for Law and Justice reports Saeed Abedini has been moved to Rajeh Shar prison, known to be even more dangerous than Evin prison, where he was being jailed. According to the ACLJ, Pastor Saeed is in a ward with men convicted for things like rape and murder. Family members tried to visit the pastor today, but were told he is not allowed to have visitors in this new prison. And for more information on how you can help push for Pastor Saeed's release, visit our website, cbnnews.com.
The Syrian government vows all children in the country will be vaccinated. That's after cases of polio surfaced in the Northeast. Syria's deputy foreign minister says the government will work with UN agencies and aid groups to reach children, especially those in areas held by rebels. The UN Health Agency confirms 10 polio cases among babies and toddlers. The World Health Organization says they were under-immunized. It's the first confirmed outbreak of polio in the country in 14 years, raising a risk it could spread.
Here at home, the Supreme Court this week will hear a case over prayer and government. It involves the prayers at the start of council meetings in the small town of Greece, New York. The High Court itself asked for God's protection before every public session, and in 1983, it ruled an opening prayer does not violate the First Amendment. But a federal appeals court in New York ruled against the town's meeting prayers, saying the prayers violated the Constitution by stressing Christianity. Well, joining us now with more on this is David Cortman, Senior Counsel for Alliance Defending Freedom. David, how troubling is it to you that the court ruled against prayer because the prayers stressed Christianity specifically?
Well, it's extremely troubling for several reasons. First of all, the prayers were allowed to be given by volunteers from the community. The town didn't tell them what to pray or who to pray to, and so it's merely the demographics of the town that decided these prayers. But I think what's more troubling is these types of prayers have been happening since the founding of our country. In fact, when the First Amendment was passed and drafted, they were engaging in these same type of prayers over 225 years ago.
David, prayer cases have gone before the Supreme Court before, but why is this one critical?
Well, this one's critical for several reasons, and I think that's because we see the attacks on our religious freedom, we see the censorship that's aimed towards Christians and other people of faith, I think, on the increase. And so I think it's important for the Supreme Court once and for all to say that people have a right to pray according to the dictates of their conscience. They shouldn't be censored in those prayers. They shouldn't be made to pray what plaintiffs are asking for, which is a secular prayer, something like "to whom it may concern."
Well, what is the endgame agenda of Americans United for Separation of Church and State, which is the group that brought this lawsuit?
Well, I think the end game, first of all, in this situation is to eliminate all public prayers. But even they know that's an extreme position. We have prayers all throughout the United States at presidential inaugurations. We have them anytime there's a tragedy in our country. And so what they ask for then is what they call a non-sectarian prayer, or according to them, which is secular prayer, which is no prayer at all. But I think the bigger picture is the attack on religious liberty, that they simply want to censor anyone of faith who speaks out in the public square.
That makes sense. Secular prayer is really no prayer at all. Well, quickly, where can people go for more information on this?
Well, they can go to freetopray.com, which is our website at Alliance Defending Freedom. There's information about the case. You could sign up and support, and obviously be in prayer for the next couple of days for the justices to decide the right way on this case.
All right. We will be praying. Thanks, David, so much. David Cortman with Alliance Defending Freedom. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you.
In other news, Mitt Romney is speaking out against President Obama's health care plan, saying the president was not honest when he told Americans they would be able to keep their health insurance. Those charges come after the Obamacare websites were down again this weekend. Charlene Israel has the story.
As the Obama administration scrambles to fix the failed health care enrollment website, Republicans are upping their attacks. Former Republican presidential candidate Mitt Romney accused the president of being dishonest with the American people.
I think the key thing that the president is trying to get away from, and that is that he told people they could keep their insurance, and that was not the truth. And whether you like the model of Obamacare or not, the fact that the president sold it on a basis that was not true has undermined the foundation of his second term.
Romney says now the president needs to try and rebuild that foundation by actually working with Congress. Some Democratic lawmakers are also frustrated with the many problems with the healthcare.gov website. They want it to be completely shut down until it's fixed.
You know, I felt, and I said this directly to the president's chief of staff, they ought to take down the website until it was right. They believe that they need to keep it running and that they can sort out the difficulties, that they brought in technological experts from a broad base of the private sector.
I would say to the president, why doesn't he call a timeout on this?
There are also new questions about the security of putting everyone's information online. Representative Mike Rogers says the Obama administration has admitted there was a risk.
They said that they think the risk was acceptable, but their information wasn't at risk. American people's information was at risk. The real threats to these systems when you have nation states and organized crime groups and criminals trying to get information that is now available on these websites.
Rogers says security needs to be stabilized before any other problems with the website are fixed. Meanwhile, millions of Americans continue to get letters telling them their coverage has been canceled. A California woman suffering from gallbladder cancer calls herself one of the losers of Obamacare in a column for the Wall Street Journal. She says Obamacare is forcing her to give up her world-class health plan, and she could lose her world-class doctor, too. She ends by saying, for a cancer patient, medical coverage is a matter of life and death. Take away people's ability to control their medical coverage choices and they may die. I guess that's a highly effective way to control medical costs. Perhaps that's the point. Charlene Israel, CBN News.
Thanks, Charlene. Coming up, a look at the national impact of one state's governor's race.
From CBN.
Broken Eardrum is playing at the Civic tonight.
And you'll just have to miss it.
This is so incredibly unfair.
A special story of love and sacrifice.
Joy, Mom comes up with something.
Christopher Quantum, you and I are going to discuss your attitude right this minute. Superbook.
No!
Join the Superbook DVD Club and get Superbook's newest episode, He is Risen. Plus 2 copies to share with others. All for your gift of $25.
They have arrested Jesus, the Messiah. Do you not know that I have the power to crucify you?
No! Please! You can't!
They've taken him to Golgotha. We must hurry.
Mary is about to lose her son. The worst thing any mother could face. I am not leaving her.
Superbook. It's an amazing way to build a strong spiritual foundation in the children you love.
Mary, who are you looking for?
I've seen him! He is alive!
Superbook. He is Risen. Available now.
It's hard trying to make ends meet. Stuck with no choices, I don't like defeat. By my side is where you'll stay. It will be a brand new day. Checking up is easy to do. Here's to freedom for me and you. By my side, it's here you'll stay. It's a brand new world today.
In 2008, my husband Gary departed for heaven. I was still grieving. And then to find out I had cancer, I began praying, God, how do I do this? Where do I do this? Cancer Treatment Centers of America was the place. Dr. Neelam outlined a plan that would take care of my mind and my body, and she prayed with me.
For Bible-believing Christians, we're able to pray with them in a much deeper way as they begin to really rely upon their faith.
At Cancer Treatment Centers of America, we believe in the power of faith and prayer as indispensable allies in the fight against complex and advanced stage cancer.
I'm back in Telluride on the mountain skiing. I feel strong and healthy.
Advanced medicine and technology.
And I am a survivor.
The warm embrace of the Spirit and the power of prayer.
These are happy tears.
Please go to cancercenter.com/faith. Appointments available now. Cancer Treatment Centers of America. Care that never quits.
It's hard trying to make ends meet. Stuck with no choices, I don't like defeat. By my side is where you'll stay. It will be a brand new day. Checking up is easy to do. Here's to freedom for me and you. By my side, it's here you'll stay. It's a brand new world today.
Voters in New Jersey and Virginia will decide on their next governors tomorrow. In the Virginia race, Democrat Terry McAuliffe and Republican Ken Cuccinelli are both looking to make the election into a referendum on Obamacare. Cuccinelli had been trailing in the polls, but some recent surveys show he's within 1 or 2 points of McAuliffe. Cuccinelli is promising to continue the fight he began as the state's attorney general against Obamacare. McAuliffe supports the law and promised to use it to expand Medicaid for health care coverage for 400,000 Virginians. The race will be decided by the few people who vote. Turnout could be as low as 30%, so get out the vote tomorrow.
By Ryan Nobles. He's an anchor and political reporter at the NBC affiliate in Richmond, and he's also the author of the blog Decision Virginia. Ryan, why is the governor's race in Virginia getting such national attention?
Well, I think there's two reasons, Mark. The first is that it is one of only two statewide elections the year after a presidential race. Virginia shares that distinction with New Jersey. And also, it is getting a lot of national attention because of Terry McAuliffe's connection to this race and his close association with the Clinton family. And there's a lot of political experts and pundits that believe that this Virginia race could be a test case for Hillary Clinton's campaign as she goes forward.
Ryan, from the government shutdown to the health care rollout, both Republicans and Democrats have been taking a lot of heat. What issues will come into play for this state-level election?
Well, both sides have really nationalized this election, especially in the closing days. Ken Cuccinelli's who's the Republican, the Attorney General here in Virginia, has been talking for a long time about Obamacare and what he views as its damaging effects. He's often talked about the fact that he was the first Attorney General in the country to sue to stop the Obamacare health care law. And at the same time, Terry McAuliffe has not run away from it. He's called for an expansion of Medicaid here in Virginia, which the legislature and the current governor have fought against. He's actually campaigned with President Obama on Sunday. The one interesting thing is that the shutdown had a huge impact on Ken Cuccinelli's campaign because the Democrats successfully tied his campaign to some of the more vocal voices in Washington, like Ted Cruz and the like, who came to Virginia shortly after the shutdown controversy.
But let's talk a little bit more about how much impact this election could have on reshaping the Republican Party.
Mark, that is probably the number one question that will come out of Virginia. Is this going to be an awakening for the Republican Party that has leaned heavily on the Tea Party over the past couple of election cycles? And there's no doubt that Ken Cuccinelli is a Tea Party Republican. He's had Rand Paul and Ron Paul, some heavy libertarians, come in to support him, and he's not run away from that Tea Party message. As a result, he's not seen some of the financial contributions that Republicans who are a bit more moderate, like Bob McDonnell, saw 4 years ago. Compare that to what's happening in New Jersey, where Chris Christie, who is certainly much closer to the middle than Ken Cuccinelli is, and has not embraced the Tea Party in the same way Cuccinelli is. He's in a blue state, could run out to a 30 percentage point lead tomorrow in his election, where Ken Cuccinelli could lose narrowly. It is certainly going to have Republicans across the country asking the question about how they move forward as a party in the years going forward.
And Ryan, some recent polls show a slight surge for Ken Cuccinelli, who has been trailing McAuliffe from the start. You talked about that. Is there a chance he could end up being elected?
Frankly, Mark, I really don't think there is. The only really narrow path that Ken Cuccinelli has is he has to hope for a very low voter turnout. And the one bright light that he's seen in the polling is that there is a bit better of an enthusiasm gap for him in terms of his voters being solidly behind him.
All right, Ryan Nobles, thank you for your insights today, sir.
Thank you, Mark.
Up next, women and porn. Why more and more females are falling into addiction.
Jim is 38, mortgage, married, 3 great kids. He wants to protect his family with a $500,000 term life insurance policy. What do you think it'll cost him? $100 a month? 60? 40? Actually, none of the above. Jim can get a $500,000 policy from a highly rated insurer for under $19 a month. His secret? SelectQuote. SelectQuote is impartial. They'll comparison shop the pick of insurance companies like these to give you a choice of your best prices. SelectQuote has great savings on term life for women, too. Jim's wife, Deidre, can get a $500,000 policy for under $16 a month. SelectQuote has helped make term life insurance affordable for hundreds of thousands of people since 1985. How about you? Just call this number or go to SelectQuote.com. SelectQuote. We shop, you save.
Attention sleep apnea patients. Are you tired of the expense and hassle of getting your CPAP and BiPAP supplies? Are you fed up with dealing with ill-fitting, leaking, or worn-out masks and straps? Are you worried about the effects that unsanitary tubes, cushions, and filters have on your health? If you said yes to any of these questions, Allied Medical Supply Network has the solution to your problems. You could qualify to have your supplies regularly delivered right to your door at little or no cost to you. That's right, no more inconvenience, no worn-out masks and straps, no more unsanitary equipment, just restful sleep. Call Allied Medical Supply Network today to determine if you may qualify to receive your fresh, brand-name supplies at little or no cost. Don't delay. Call us now to see if you are eligible to save money on regular delivery of your CPAP and BiPAP supplies. Call 1-800-815-9947. That's 1-800-815-9947. Or go to cpapsupplyhelpline.com.
Most people think of porn as something only men struggle with, so it might be surprising to learn a third of the millions of Americans who visit porn sites on the web are women.
Yeah, a recent Pew Research poll finds 8% of women admit to watching adult videos online. And just like the men, they're getting hooked.
Paul Strand has more in tonight's Focus Report.
Pornography has been a serious problem for decades, and it's only become worse in the internet age. Addiction has skyrocketed, even among Christian men.
You may think pornography is just a problem for the males, but there's an author who lives near Pikes Peak here in Colorado who will tell you these days it's definitely a problem for the females as well.
A problem that turned personal for Christian writer and lecturer Shelley Hitz. For years, she secretly battled her own addiction, too ashamed and afraid to confess it.
We were in ministry. My husband was in full-time ministry. We were active in our church. You know, I knew better. And so every time I would get beat up and hammered by the enemy and by myself.
It started off soft-core, but Shelley likens it to the parable of a frog put in a cool pot of water that slowly boils to death as the heat slowly increases.
If Satan would have come to me and said, Shelley, look at this hardcore porn, I would have been like that frog in that pot of boiling water. I would have jumped out. I said, no way.
After years of feeling trapped and disgusted, she found the courage to confess to husband CJ.
And I said, I need help. I can't stop. I don't know what to do, but I know this is going to destroy me. It could destroy our marriage. And I asked him if I could go to counseling.
Then came another surprise. For Shelley, CJ was battling his own years-long porn addiction.
I was able to easily show her grace because I felt so dirty myself and realizing the shame and the ugliness of the addiction.
But he had never planned to tell his wife.
There's no way I can let Shelley know this because she'll just feel hurt.
He finally opened up and they began a steady battle to heal their marriage. They repented, asked forgiveness, and leaned more on God than ever before. This Colorado couple's next steps included filters on computers, carefully guarding their senses, and most important, enlisting accountability partners.
Somebody that I knew I could trust, that I knew would show me grace, but would ask me the hard questions.
There is healing that comes when you're able to share it with a brother that can pray with you, someone that can even relate to your struggle.
After counseling came deliverance. Then Shelley sensed God wanted her to take the most difficult step of all, going public.
That was 10 years ago. And then this year, I finally obeyed.
That led to the book, A Christian Woman's Guide to Breaking Free from Pornography. Shelley also began to confess during lectures to Christian women and young ladies.
Every time I would share it, it never failed. A woman, a teen girl, someone would come up to me and many times confess for the first time that, you know, that they also struggle.
One young lady in particular shocked Shelley with what she had to say.
I am on a Christian college campus. I am the chaplain. And she said almost every girl on our floor struggles with pornography.
The growth of this addiction across American society led the Christian-based WITHERSPOON Institute to seek a solution with some of the world's foremost authorities. Among them, leading marriage and family therapist Jill Manning.
Females consistently, we find, represent approximately 30% of internet pornography consumers, a third, essentially.
For their book, Shelley and her co-author surveyed Christian women and came up with stunning numbers.
19% of Christian women and teen girls that say they're not just exposed to it, but they're addicted. And then of those that said that they were exposed to pornography, 44% said they felt hopeless in overcoming it.
But Shelley and CJ are a living testimony. People willing to fight their way out can overcome.
I have been there. Christ has set me free. It has not been an easy path. It's been difficult. I still at times struggle. but there is freedom.
And they say this freedom has brought a new level of intimacy to their marriage.
There's an ecstasy and a peace and a joy and an elation that pornography never will bring.
So the message, the good news is, no matter how deep you're in, no matter how addicted, there's hope. There's deliverance. Paul Strand, CBN News, reporting from Colorado Springs, Colorado.
There's always hope. Well, up next, how three brothers found each other after a lifetime living across the country.
Announcing an important breakthrough in healthcare that can benefit everyone. If you or anyone you love needs affordable health insurance, regardless of a pre-existing medical condition, call Quick Insurance 123 today and get the immediate relief you deserve. Quick Insurance 123 was created to provide affordable health insurance to all uninsured Americans, with or without pre-existing conditions. This is not a discount card. This is a real insurance program that lets you choose from many affordable health plans, with access to doctors, hospitals, emergency services, and more. So call the number on your screen now and get the health coverage you need just for calling. As a special bonus, we'll send you a free prescription savings card that could save you up to 85% on your prescriptions. That's right, you could save up to 85% on your prescriptions just for calling. Call Quick Insurance 123 to find out how you can get affordable health insurance and receive your free prescription savings card just for calling. Don't wait. Getting a free quote is as easy as 1, 2, 3. Call today.
Attention sleep apnea patients. Are you tired of the expense and hassle of getting your CPAP and BiPAP supplies? Are you fed up with dealing with ill-fitting, leaking, or worn-out masks and straps? Are you worried about the effects that unsanitary tubes, cushions, and filters have on your health? If you said yes to any of these questions, Allied Medical Supply Network has the solution to your problems. You could qualify to have your supplies regularly delivered right to your door at little or no cost to you. That's right, no more inconvenience, no worn-out masks and straps, no more unsanitary equipment, just restful sleep. Call Allied Medical Supply Network today to determine if you may qualify to receive your fresh, brand-name supplies at little or no cost. Don't delay. Call us now to see if you are eligible to save money on regular delivery of your CPAP and BiPAP supplies. Call 1-800-815-9947. That's 1-800-815-9947. Or go to cpapsupplyhelpline.com.
Can you miss someone you've never met?
Long-lost brothers meeting for the first time think so. David, Noel, and Donald all have the same mother, but grew up apart. 70-year-old David is the youngest of the brothers. His daughter found his two older brothers on Ancestry.com, and they all met last week in Florida.
I guess like a person having an empty spot in their life and not realizing maybe what it is, but you still know there's something.
Same way with David. It's just unbelievable to have that much spread, that there would be that kind of a bond.
Wow, that's great. Well, thanks to years of searching and a lot of help from the internet, the trio can pick up where they technically never left off.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, I love those
70
reunion
years
stories.
Later.
Yeah.
Never too late.
That's right.
Well, that's going to do it for this edition of NewsWatch.
Remember, you can email us your comments and questions at newswatch@cbn.com. Hope you'll join us next time.